Hey, so welcome back to the studio. Welcome. So tonight, as you can see, we are going to try to paint a seagull. And I've just got a seagull here. He's sitting on a piling or something. I've quickly sketched out my raw seagull form. I've got a travel tin of paints. Here are the colors. I can list the ones I'm going to use in the description. I've got this here so I can see what they look like in their native form. And I'm using my Winsor Newton brushes. I'm going to start with a number 4 here, and I'm going to start by, mixing up my own gray. And I think I'm going to do that with, let's try it with a little Viridian and some Pyrrole red. Give us a nice gray color there. I'm going to come onto my bird and just drop in a line under here so you can see what I'm doing. And this is going to end up being the darkest line just under the main flight feathers here. And I'm going to take that and I'm going to pull that up as far as I dare go with it. I want to lighten up as I go to the top of the bird up here. I should say my paper, when I'm starting, is pretty dry. And I'm just going to pull that wherever I think. I know as the further I'm going up, the more I'm losing my color, my gray, and I'm okay with that. I want to use this. I'm just going to use this just a little bit to let me know where I've got to paint further. I'm going to drop in a little bit more, make it a little bit stronger down there. I'm going to use just the slightest bit of that gray. I'm going to water that way down. I'm going to start putting that up here by our guy's eye up here, something like that, just wherever I think it's a little bit darker. I think that's pretty good. There we go. You can barely see that. I'm sure it's on so light. I'm going to use a little bit of Arulian, because this is a color I've really kind of come to enjoy using, and just a touch of sepia. And I'm going to use that underneath our bird here. I'm going to paint just his underbelly here, just to give him a little bit of warmth and a little bit of shadow under here. And I'm going to do the same thing I did on the top half of the bird. I'm going to put a line down here. Should stop playing around and just paint my line. Instead of all the little short little brushes, strokes, pop, just do a nice, really nice big one. But I'm going to put that on the bottom. I'm going to redamp my brush. And then I'm going to pull all those colors out, or that color, I guess I should say. And just let it blend up, right up as far as you want to take it to that gray line. There we go. Something like that. And you can see, without doing a whole lot of work, we've already got the basis of our bird here. It looks pretty good. I'm going to take a little bit of my Arulian mix here. Just, again, really light. I'm going to put it on the top of his head and mix in a little bit of our color up there. He's got a little bit, I think, of color on the top of his head. Let me zoom in and let you get a little better view. Let me move things just a little bit, I think. Come on. There you go. I think that's going to be our best view. Let's see, I'm going to just give myself a little bit more, a little bit darker of this Arulian down here. And I'm kind of stalling a little bit while I wait for my gray to dry up here. Not a whole lot, but just a touch. I'm going to mix a little bit of my Pyrrole red with a little bit of my sepia tone. Just getting a nice little mixture down here. And if I look at his legs are pretty dark down here, but they're a little bit red. See if I can move that back to where you can see it. So I want to keep that color fairly dark, just give him a little bit of color there, and I'm going to try to put these on. I'm going to have to go back and do another layer on these legs. So I'm just blocking in a little bit of color right now. He's got a toe that kind of sticks up and then comes down. I'm going to draw it like that. There we go. I think that looks pretty good, and I'm going to go back to my gray color. I'm jumping around a little bit. I realize that. Instead of waiting for paint to dry in this area and only painting that area, I'm trying to jump around a little bit so I can get back to a drier area, go to a little bit more wet area. Alright, what am I doing? I'm going to make a little stronger gray, and I think I was using Viridian here and Pyrrole Red to make my gray. Mix that up just a little bit stronger. What I want to do is give a little bit more definition down here to this wing. There we go, and maybe this one sticks out. The backside is pretty dark. And just with a little bit of water in here, I'm going to give a little bit of definition to some of his wings here. I'm going to pull that out just a little bit. There we go, I like that. I'm going to give him a little bit of definition on some flight feathers up here maybe. Actually, maybe not. I'll just kind of pull these out a little bit. There we go. And I'm going to put a little bit more the dark on his top. I know it doesn't necessarily show it on the picture, but I'm going to pull that down and let it get lighter down to my feather line here, if I can do that. I might not have cleaned my brush quite enough to do the best job, but I want to get a little bit extra color in here. There we go. I like that. I think that one looks good, and this will give me just these little bit of feathers up on the top up here. Some light color. I'm going to go right through his eye. So I'm going to paint his eye right over top in just a second. And a little bit of shadowing under his chin. There we go. Yes, I put it on and I'm taking it right back off. I don't want a hard line there on his face. I want it to be a little bit softer. In fact, I'm going to come back with a little bit more of my Arulian and put it on here. I'm not going to do any more to the back of his head up here. I want that to stay lighter. I'm going to darken up my Arulian mixture just a little bit and put a dab right under his chin, right on his chin under his bill here. And let's see, put a little bit more. Let's see, he's got some, it's actually fairly dark right back on his backside back here. He's got a few feathers coming that way. And just continuing to layer the paint on him a little bit before I let that get too hard of an edge. Just going to drop a little bit of water on there and spread that around. I'm not using a whole lot of colors on this bird. I don't think this bird calls for all that many colors. I could use a little bit of blue maybe to make it a little colder in here, but I don't know that I need that. I think we're doing pretty good. We're almost done. I'm going to drop down to a little bit smaller brush. This is a number 2. In my red mixture that I made for his legs, I'm just going to add a little bit more sepia too, just to make that a bit darker. Come back in, and might be just a little too dark. Let's see. Thin it down just a touch. That's better. Everywhere. There we go. I'm just going to put it in kind of a little bit of a jagged, not a full solid line everywhere. I think he's got kind of a knobby knee. I want to give that a little bit of that red showing through for that knee there. I'm going to go back to the brush I was using to begin with. This is my number 4 Winsor & Newton. And I'm just going to give him a little bit of dab of a little extra darkness under here. This is more sepia, a little bit more of the sepia, a little bit less of the cerulean. There we go. He's got a feather or two out here. Let's see. And I'm going to take our original gray color, and now that we've started to dry up a little bit, just going to remix it. I'm going to put in a couple of, I'm going to put my line back in here. I'm going to give him a couple of feather lines. I'm going to re-darken my line there. That might be turning a little bit green. Just mix a little bit of red in with it. It'll probably be real good. It's pretty good. There we go. I like that. Okay, I'm going to drop back to my smaller brush, my number 2 brush. I'm going to come back and do some work on his bill here. Come on, Mr. Bill. I'm going to darken in the bottom half. And maybe just a little stripe or two on the top half. And while I'm at it, I'm going to darken in his eye. I'm going to leave a little bit of white there, though I don't need to. Seagulls don't have a white pupil, but I'm going to do that in hopes of using part of that white. I'm going to hope this dries a bit lighter. I can put a darker pupil in, and then I'll be able to use that as a highlight, if that made any sense. Okay, so we've got 2 things left to do. Okay, so if we look at our painting, we've got our stump that he's sitting on. That I'm going to use sepia and a little bit of ultramarine blue for that. There we go. Just mix that up. We're going to put it on there. It's a little dark. It's a little gray. That's okay. We're going to come back and we're going to put some lines on that. So a few cracks in there and whatnot. We're just dropping in a little bit of color. I'm also mixing in with that a little bit stronger sepia, just to vary the color. We'll see it when it dries a little bit more than we see it right now. Put a bit more of that sepia on one side. It'll give it a little bit of roundness. It'll just add some interest. And like I said, we're going to come back anyways, and we're going to put some cracks in that. The next thing we need to do while we're waiting for all this is we need to put on a sky. I'm going to back you out just a bit here. I'm going to readjust so you can see what we're doing. And I've got two in here. I've got an Antwerp blue and I've got ultramarine blue. And here's the different colors of those two. You can see them on a card here also. They're not too different, but we're going to mix in with that a little bit of our sepia. It's going to keep it kind of a blue, but it's going to gray it down quite a bit. And if you forgive me for just a moment, I'm going to turn this to make it easier to do a pull stroke to get some color above our bird here. There we go. And I'm going to go back in. Once I get away from the form of his body, I can go a lot faster. There we go. Like I said, I'm mixing in some of the sepia. I want it to be a colder, grislier kind of a day, maybe. I don't want it to be a terrible day. I don't want this guy to have to sit outside in terrible pouring rain or anything like that. But, you know, maybe just not quite as bright, as sunny a day as you might think, or you might want him to have. I don't know, something like this. We're just going to drop the color in. Going to kind of make a square out of it here. Just draw that out. Now, I did just go back in and put some water over top of the blue that we had there, and you can see it's already making some crazy lines on there. We'll come back and do a little bit with that in just a second. I want to make sure we've got some color on here. And as always, I want to make sure that I'm not putting it in just a static color everywhere. I want to vary the colors that I've got going on here. And by doing that, we're going to add a lot to the background of this painting. I've got to turn this over again. And I really shouldn't have done, I should have done this top edge at the beginning and not tried to go back and retouch this, but that's fine. That's neither here nor there. It's just going to add some interest. There we go. And we're almost there with our sky. You can see it actually is looking pretty good. This guy's really sitting out there. Could be a stormy day, or storm just rolled in and has rolled past. He's out on the hunt looking for a little food or something. Waiting for the fishermen to come back to port so we can see what kind of goodies they got while they were out at sea. All right, there we go. We're getting there. A few more brush strokes, and we've got it. There it is. I'm going to get my smaller brush. I'm going to go back into a little bit of my sepia, and I'm just going to put some cracks in our stump that this guy is sitting on. Something like that. I'm not trying to pull this perfectly down. I don't know exactly what this is supposed to look like, but I know this is an old piling sitting out in the water for a long time, and it's got lots of cracks on it. There we go. That looks better. Excuse me. So we can do a few things at this point. If it looks like we need any touch up, now is the perfect time to do that. I want to darken up his bill just a little bit, the bottom half of it, that little stripe on the top, and give him a definite pupil. Now he's staring out that way. He's definitely staring out that way. And I want to take some of our gray color, and I just want to give him a little bit more value in here. And I'm not really painting anything on him. I'm just kind of splashing on a little bit of color. But it's going to give him a little bit more of a mottled look. But it's definitely going to give him a little bit more definition in his wing here. There we go. And I think I need just to strengthen the tones around his face. I think that got a little too light for my liking, so I'm just going to put a little bit more around his head. There we go. I think that's better. All right, a couple little things, and I really like it a lot better. I'm going to call that good. My little seagull. I hope you enjoyed painting him with me. I enjoyed painting him with you. I'm just going to sign this and call it good. Say good night. Thank you so much for joining me here in the studio. I hope you had a good time. I had a good time. We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.